All right, everyone, welcome back to the 8th episode of the Off Court Podcast, the paddle podcast covering all your paddle needs. We are your hosts. I'm Hugh. This is Connor. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are diving into the first P2 of the year, the Gijón P2, the rising stars making waves, and the latest updates on what's going on with player boycott and what's happening with that. It's a strange start to the 2025 season. We're trying to adapt as well as a paddle podcast. We want to bring you guys the latest news, the most accurate information as well. Even though none of the top 100 players were signed up to this P2, it turned out to be decent, quite interesting. It
felt like a little bit of a fever dream, or we're like in an alternate reality of Premier Padel a little bit, where there's just so many other players that we've never even heard of before. And in a way, it's refreshing, I think, right? Like we were kind of dogging on Koya and Tapia at the end of last season that we were just sick and tired of them winning every fucking tournament, right? But
we got what we deserved.
Yeah, we got what we deserve now, and now we have to learn like a bunch of different names, and it's just absolutely flip the table in the paddle world a little bit.
We'll get into that just in a second. Before that, as always, we like to start with a little icebreaker. Connor, how are you doing? How's the paddle world for you?
Great, man. I'm watching it with a bit of a glass wall in front of me at the moment, man. If you guys don't know, big news. I'm injured.
Oh yeah.
Reaching into a month without paddle. I think I'm going crazy. I think I'm going to start chewing my hand. I can't watch this much paddle and then not play, man.
Yeah.
This guy's going to play a little bit later today, and I have...
But you're feeling better? It's getting progressively better, no?
Yes, slowly.
Yeah.
But we'll get back on the court eventually.
Yeah.
I know that I'll be able to. So, maybe I'll hit the top 100 ranks by next year then. I think I got put off my target a little bit.
I think that's what's going to... This injury is what's going to maybe keep you from
I'm
going
to look like Andy Murray, man, having like cyborg ankles basically. But no, I'm all good, man. How are you?
Good. Not too bad. Been playing some paddle recently as well. Found this. I'm going to keep it a secret because I don't want people to know about this club, maybe.
Oh, get out. You didn't even tell me.
No, you know it.
The one you're going to...
Not now. One that I don't think you've ever been to that one yet, but I told you about it.
We're such gatekeepers,
for you. For you, it's a bit annoying to get to, but it's like one singular indoor court.
Yes.
And it's very cheap, especially if you play in the morning. So I played a 6 a.m. game the other day.
Oh my God.
Had to wake up at like 5.
I missed that.
5:20 past 5 to play. And found like a few people who we can have like good games with, similar level, very competitive, long rallies, which is what you want
indoor?
At the end of the day. Indoor.
Nice.
Yeah. But all good.
Well, I'm living vicariously through you a little bit, and I hope you get the dub later today.
Thank you. And solidifying being a right-hand player more and more, and I'm enjoying it more.
Yeah,
and more,
I know you converted not too long ago, man.
Yeah.
So welcome to the right side, I guess, or the dark side. I have no idea really what's good or bad, but
having said that, let's get into the actual paddle content.
Yes.
So topic 1,
Gijón P2.
Yeah.
What was that, man?
What was that?
How did that feel? How did that feel to you?
It felt, as you said, like a bit strange, like alternate reality vibes. However, I was pleasantly surprised, and as the tournament progressed and we got closer and closer to the final, and you got the I guess like the best pairs from this tournament battling against each other, it got more and more interesting. I think there's like a few key, but it did inform a lot about the current state of paddle. We're just used to seeing like mostly, like top 20 players.
I think a nice way to describe it kind of adds another dimension, or it gave us another perspective really on what, like at the competitive level or Premier Padel level, that I think it's such a rare, obviously there's a lot of drama going on, a lot of like speculation, we're, as audiences and fans of the sport, we're not really kept in the loop exactly, right? So it does feel like this rare combination of circumstances that has given us kind of like not just a weird tournament, but it's given us a bit of introspection on like okay, this is kind of where paddle's at a little bit when you go a little bit further down the ranks,
exactly,
right? And I think there's a lot to learn from that, from watching a lot of these young players play.
Absolutely.
A couple of famous names or exciting pairs like Tolio and Gonza coming into Premier Padel, right? But, I think if you were to compare the sort of usual suspects, the top 20 players that we see in the finals, how do you think that sort of differs to what we experienced this tournament?
I think there's a few key points. I think, first of all, I guess just in terms of like, as you said, for me, this tournament, it was really useful to be like, we still saw the top players in the world play in Gijón P2.
Yeah.
They just weren't the top 20. They were the top 200 or whatever, which is still massive. It's still like an incredible level of paddle. But being so used to watching the top 20, you can see these differences of what separates the big dogs compared to the rest.
Yeah.
I think first of all, like, especially in the earlier rounds, it felt like the game felt a lot slower. We talked about it, like with Gonza, for example, like how the speed at which the top players play at still very quick compared to amateurs, obviously.
Yeah,
but
the court itself was on the slower side. It feels right, but not like extremely slow. So I feel like that does kind of like echo a little bit on the pace of the play, right?
Yeah.
And it turns, obviously there's smashes and everything like that, especially for the male players. But I think to see a little bit more tactical thought get played in, a little bit of boring paddle, safe paddle, playing the most sort of like reliable shots with the lowest risk as well, which I saw, because I think at the end of the day, they were trying to sort of save themselves from making a lot of unforced errors, right?
That was one of the main things we observed, I think, is a lot more unforced errors than we're used to, which is a big indicator, of how accurate and consistent the top players can be.
They're robots. It feels like it, man,
literally.
if you think about it. Like, it's insane, dude.
Also, what did you think about, because for me, I observed in terms of like decision making and intelligence in the court, paddle IQ.
Yeah.
I felt like players sometimes didn't make the best decisions or the decisions that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I think a great way to say it actually during this tournament is like it felt like we were watching real paddle a little bit.
Yeah.
Compared to like some of the previous tournaments, right, where we do see like some of the best players in the world play.
Yeah,
it felt like it was more humanized in a way, right, where we can actually relate to some of the mistakes that these guys see them get caught out because they weren't in the right position, or they were just too far up and they were just getting lobbed and not making it back in time. And for some players like maybe Tolio, which is something we'll talk about, their fitness just wasn't there, right? And you can hold, you can see that hold them back a little bit.
Rushing some points, maybe sometimes not being very patient. We'll talk about this in a second as well. But I think in terms of tactically and play style, those are two of the main differences I've seen. Is if you guys, we've talked about this before, but what I think as soon as you go up in terms of paddle level, what really makes a great paddle player is shot selection and positioning in terms of yourself, your body. Amateur players like myself, for example, I make loads of mistakes in terms of shot selection. What is the best shot to play in this exact moment?
Exactly.
The professionals know how to do that.
Their wheelhouse of shots that they know they can confidently hit and take off.
Is it a rulo here, or am I going for a kick smash? And that can determine
that's literally such a huge face of at that competitive level. Like, it is such an important moment in split-second decision making.
And then knowing where your body is supposed to be at all times. Is it now time to push? Am I staying behind? Am I staying middle in case it's a fake smash, or in case I have to run out the court? It's all these decisions that really separate these players. But I think also in terms of like leaving the tactical and play style behind a little bit, it was really interesting, and it really informs where the direction this sport is going towards. The fact that as soon as you go down the rankings a little bit, like we saw here in Gijón, there's a lot more diversity, right? In
terms of nationality?
Nationality,
there we go. We have less Spaniards and Argentinians.
We're used to seeing mainly, with the exception of like Bergamini and like maybe a couple others, it's all Argentinians and Spaniards.
I guess because they are all at the top 100 if you think about it, man.
But then it's interesting to see how, you know, the I guess the future of paddle is in the hands of many Swedes, French players, Italian, even top I think fourth seeded pair was one of them was Egyptian.
Yeah, exactly. Yusuf, I forgot his last name. Yeah, but, and yeah, I mean even a few more countries even in South America as well.
Paraguay,
like, Paraguay,
Danique,
exactly, man. So it is there, right? You know, I think this kind of links in with a bit of the boycott talk, right, about preserving paddle's future, letting it become an Olympic sport. It really does feel like we're not too far away from having that competitive level where you can compete by nation, right, where there is enough representation from
Olympics,
other countries.
Baby.
Yeah, you know, fuck, we got to wait 8 years maybe for that at least. But yeah, I do like to see that, and it is inspiring to see that there are players from, you know, other countries besides Spain and Argentina that, you know, they're working on this, man. And we actually, you know, I feel like we've been informed a lot on how tough it is to come up the ranks and what that sort of circumstance is like for a lot of like aspiring professional players. So I give a lot of props to them, and they must have really enjoyed this weekend to get a bit of the limelight, a bit of opportunities to walk away with some points. And yeah, man, you know, and you know what? It's nice to say that, you know, there's a few other names that we can talk about today besides.
I was just gonna say, like, it's nice to get to know as well, even though we missed, you know, because we did miss seeing, you know, all the LeBrons, the Galans, the Coelhos, the Coquinietos, all those guys. Definitely, it was still really cool to see, you know, some new faces, and sort of like faces that are very likely to be faces that we're going to see a lot more in the coming years, you know. So it's good to see their starting point kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll talk about Cabeza and Garcia in a bit, man, but woof,
wow,
like the way they walked off the court like that at the end of the tournament. But that's at the end of the tournament. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the road to the finals a little bit. Maybe some names that we had some anticipations for. I think, you know, the one on my forehead is Tolio and Gonza, right? And their experiences. And, you know, I think for a duo that sort of dominated the A1 paddle, thinking they're ready to enter Premier Padel, a lot of, you know, sort of speculation on whether these guys should have been part of this protest or boycott, right? Because of their level, right? We all know, for those who don't know Tolio, he's just like an incredible player. And normally you'll probably see highlight clips of him doing like the most unorthodox shots, returns.
Same with Alonso though. He's like very like, they call him, you know, I don't know if he's got like a specific AKA, I don't know it right now, but like the sort of like the magician of paddle as well. Like that he, I think they call him the inventor of shots.
Really?
You know, because he just like sort of comes up with the craziest solutions. Very creative.
For a duo that has so much flair, it's easy to be excited, right?
Yeah.
And I think our anticipations and excitement for them were kind of lived a little bit this tournament, right? Because obviously they made it to the finals.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting to me to see kind of where their level is at. You know what I mean? Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, obviously they got to the finals. They're playing against very young players to get there. And really the impression I got was that they're nowhere near. If the top 20, 30, it's like, you know, now they're in Premier Padel and they want to play in this. They're no longer playing in A1. Honestly, if they're going to play in P1s and majors, gosh, I don't think we're going to see any of them anymore.
I don't see them going through round of 32.
No,
or,
I mean, if you look at their,
it's for me. The thing is, I was talking to a friend today. I was texting him, and he said, which is kind of funny and actually very accurate. Feels like Tolio and Gonza Alfonso, they play like paddle freestyle.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
how there's like the freestyle discipline in some sports. It feels like they're
playing like FIFA Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, literally.
You know,
they're
not playing like original football,
which is great and entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't find it like that entertaining. It's cool to see like 5 minutes of them and do some like cool, you know, trick shots, like off the like sidewall, under the legs, whatever. But when it comes to and they got to the final because, you know, even though they're, you know, they play this freestyle and they're, you know, they invent shots or whatever, they still are very good players compared to the rest of the P2, Gijón P2 pool. But as soon as they went up against Cabeza García, who play more like sort of proper orthodox paddle, Magic only lasts until, you know what I mean? Like, Magic is great to watch, but then
it doesn't win you the games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we saw
and
that.
that's the whole point of the sport, is to win, basically. Like
And
any sport.
It's like that. Yeah, exactly, man. Like you said it so right, man. The Magic doesn't win, really. And I think we saw that, you know, we can talk about the finals, but I want to touch on Cabeza and Garcia as well before we do that as well. And then we can get into the finals a little bit. But, you know, just to finish on Tolito and Gonza, I think that really it was kind of like a testament or a proof that, you know, without that physical agility, you're not going to win games. It doesn't matter how much magic you can pull out the hat.
Yeah.
It won't win you anything like that. And you saw on Tolito's face at the end of it. And I know he's been on his fitness journey, you know, as someone who's carrying a little bit of chub with me as well, trying to do that for myself. You know, it's also inspiring to see that, you know, him try and push his career forward. But, you know, he's not there. And I think after playing so many games to get to the finals, these guys were just kind of clocked out. And if for those that don't know, they ended up losing against Garcia and Cabeza. One of the most interesting finals I've seen because of the circumstances. It was just,
and from a purely paddleistic point of view, it was really good. We had some like really good points. Definitely.
Some of the rallies were insane.
Some of the rallies were really, really good. And it was a really good final.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, you know, we can get into the final now, but really, what do you think Garcia and Cabeza did to sort of like overcome that? Besides their agility, man, because we saw them like, they were like spiders a little bit, vibrating spiders just running around the court the whole time. And they could cover most of the angles very easily. And they didn't have any of the troubles that came with, like, you know, any of Tolito's unpredictable shots, right? Or crazy returns.
Man, I was honestly, genuinely, and I felt like, and I've just met them now, these guys. Like, I didn't really know about them before. So proud and genuinely inspired. I was like, how can you be so good?
And mature.
Being 17, 18. I was incredibly impressed by the level these guys showed. It was crazy. I mean, I made some notes here that I wanted to like discuss with you. They, as you said, they felt like really mature players. As we said before, you know how difficult it is to come up in the ranks. These guys got to the final without a coach.
Yeah, that's actually hilarious, dude.
You know, like they were just sitting there being like figuring out between themselves, because they probably didn't have the money to pay for a coach to travel with
Literally,
them.
Man. And to see Tolito and Gonza sitting there with their coach with his sports goggles on, and like they're realizing the shifts of the game are changing right now. It's incredible. So
they felt like a very grounded pairing.
Yep.
They made really good decisions and they felt really intelligent. The same way we just talked about the maybe seeing a bit less of paddle IQ in this tournament because of the lack of the top 20 players, let's say.
Yeah.
These guys, for me, were a bit of an exception.
Yeah, man.
They had such a plethora of shots, really perfected shots. Overheads were great. The bajadas de pared were really, really good. Finding loads of angles.
Yeah, man.
Really easily. They were dancing.
They were making them run,
Tolito
man.
and Gonza, you know. And the fact, as we said, of them being so young.
Yep.
So definitely watch out for them. Also,
gosh, sorry, go for it. We didn't even say the main headline from it. You know, not only was he the youngest, Cabeza I'm talking about, the youngest player to make it to a final, but now he's the youngest player to win a final. And you know, it's P2 in Premier Padel history.
Any Premier Padel tournament. Yeah,
like it's crazy. It's incredible, man. Yeah. And you know, I have no idea what the future of this season is going to look like, especially for P2 tournaments.
Yeah,
it's still all in the air. I just don't know when there's going to be another circumstance that comes like that, when a young player is going to be in the right time, in the right place to come and get a win. And, you know, we're going to, you know, talk a little bit about how much points they picked up from this, which is crazy, actually, to see how much of a bump they got from where they went. But, you know, I think they also, you know, just you can't sort of criticize them, I guess, right? Because they are so young, and they did win, you know, the finals at the end of the day.
I have one.
Yeah, what I was going to ask. What
tiny criticism.
Yeah.
Because we have to also, which is something that we'll talk about today, I think, or we should talk about, is again, this is Cabeza García, righty lefty combo. same as Ustero and Alonso, who we will talk about in a second. Coelho Tapia, Sanchez Jose Maria. There's a pattern here of the right-handed, left-handed combo. This isn't like something, this isn't breaking news, but it's something that keeps coming up, and these pairings seem to have an advantage over pairings that are both right-handed, So I just think it's something to think about, the fact that you just double your smash opportunities kind of thing.
It's if you want to call it like a tactical trend that's going to happen, or it's happening already, it just makes so much more sense.
Because these kids, I can call them kids because they are literally kids. They're not guys. These kids have also insane power. Yes. Both of them, they have insane smashes. So as you were just asked me, the only criticism I have, because I repeat, I was incredibly impressed by the level they showed, is because they both have such good overhead winners, is that I felt like maybe sometimes they would
feed them a ball a little bit, right?
They would go for the smash a bit too soon in the point. They just needed, in my humble opinion, they just needed a bit more patience. Once they get that, again, it's because they're really young and they lack experience probably. As soon as they get a bit more experience and they have more patience and they build up the point right to the moment where a smash winner will give them the point, then they'll, then that's perfection. Let's say. Obviously I'm sure they have loads of stuff to work on still, but it did feel that at some point they just saw maybe like a short-ish lob that wasn't maybe too short, and they just went for the smash, feeding a nice ball for Gonza, Alonso to just dunk
Flick it over, which...
Other than that, the rulos were ridiculous. They have this like both of them, they have this like, especially Garcia, I think they have this like soft smash. It's not a bandeja, it's not a víbora.
You were
this
saying
smash
this.
where it goes into the sidewall and then it kind of dies a little bit on the, it's like
side,
it's like a gancho rulo, not onto the mesh but onto the side glass, and then it goes onto the back glass, dies a little bit. It's a sort of like defensive smash shot. It's
such a like a bastard to return. If you think about
but
it.
But they did loads of those.
They found the angles, man, and they were moving, bro.
It was insane.
It's insane to see that, that these guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about where their ranks were at the start of the tournament.
Tell us, like, what was that?
Who was it? It was Gonza at, not Gonza, sorry. Garcia was ranked 222 to 83. Okay, let's talk about Cabeza, who was 176 and is now ranked 68.
So they both went from, this tournament has both put them in the top 100 of the world.
Yeah, just by that. And I honestly, I think what we said already, that it's such a rare circumstance that these guys can come and play this tournament.
How many points did they get for this win? How many points did they get for the tournament? Like in total?
They picked up 630 points, which is unheard of. If you look at all of the FIP tournaments that they've played and seeing what points they picked up, it's like 8 points, 2 points, 5
18,
points,
17,
and then you scroll to the top if you're on the FIP's website on their rankings, and then you just see 630 points, which is an absolute juicer. You know what I mean? So
walk they away. Went up like 140 positions or something
like that, roughly like that, and it was just like incredible to see. And I think they'll probably be fucking over.
You know what? Before we move on, hats off.
Well done. Well done.
Diego and Curro, I don't know if you guys watch us. Probably not, but if you do, thank you. Hats off to you guys.
Well done.
You are incredible players, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with your future, because you're ridiculous.
Their road to the finals was also incredible to watch because, they're also going up against some other incredible young players too, right? Like I think someone... Who is it? Danike? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, the Paraguayan.
Dude, it was incredible as well. A lot of, it was just unfortunate they met that early on in the road to the finals, but
Danike is 16, I think.
Which is sorry.
I remember watching his Premier Padel debut. Last year in I think it was a Paraguay P2 that they played when he was 15.
Insane.
And he played against I can't remember who he played against, but he was playing against like it wasn't like top 8 maybe, but it was like a well-established pair, or maybe it was top 8, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And this is a literal 15-year-old kid who was playing his debut. It was insane. And look at him now on the semis of P2.
That's what that tournament did feel a little bit like. That I was like, what are we watching, man? I'm just watching like kids on the court right now. No disrespect to them, they're there playing, but it did feel like it was so weird, man.
It's visually, it's like it's very like.
I'm watching under 18s tournament, but actually I'm watching a Premier Padel P2
and then when the camera zooms in, you're like, but this guy's like tiny. What do you mean he's in the final? Yeah,
it's incredible, man. And I think that's if we want to take the silver lining from a tournament like this, really, it's something that we haven't got before. Yeah. So I'm kind of interested for that.
Hats off to Aragon and Denique as well.
They were a really
also super young pairing. They went down against Cabeza and Garcia's 4-6, 4-6 in the semis. Really impressed as well by their level. I think Garcia and Cabeza were just...
They're on it, man. They were there. They were
steps behind, but these guys have Aragon and Denique. Massive future ahead of them as well.
Yeah, exactly. We have to remember their names, obviously, because we'll definitely see them again. Yeah. You know, whether it's in more P2 tournaments, I have no idea if that's what the landscape of that's going to change now. We're going to see a lot of younger players in P2, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, also it feels weird grouping them in there, but like also shout out to, Ustero and Alonso as well, who are also young.
What a tournament.
They're that age as well, right? Like, and it's just incredible to see them, knock out Bea, Gonzalez, and, oh my God, blanking on her as well. How could I forget Claudia Fernandez? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was just such a juicy pairing to go up against. I think, there's so much excitement for women's paddle at the moment, because obviously there isn't a boycott or the
it's so
the top
competitive,
players
man. I love it. It's such a you get so surprised.
Yeah,
one gets knocked out in the Riyadh P1, and then all of a sudden, they win it on the P2, and they beat the number ones. It's very exciting.
It's very tight at the moment. Yeah. So even though they went up against Ari Sanchez and Paulito, Jose Maria, and they did get served up a little bit by them, and that's how the way it goes.
Which is fair enough. Like these,
they are the number ones.
They are the number ones. I just wanted to talk to you a bit more about Ustero and Alonso, who are we've already mentioned it, but the fact that last year they went from being ranked 30 plus in the world. I can't remember the rankings exactly, but more or less that was to finishing the year, getting into the Barcelona finals, which is massive. And they've started the year strong, man. I love that pair. And as Gonza said before as well, Gonza, like how he loves watching Ustero, who's
she's an animal, man.
She's an animal.
Like really, she's genuinely one of my favorite players to watch because she does have that magic quality to them. I love the players that are consistent and they can feed back every ball, but really the players that have that little burst of like something special. No disrespect to Ale Alonso as well.
Who I think was the MVP of this tournament.
Right?
Like, to be fair, in the pairing, Ustero played incredibly, but Ale Alonso I think was.
She was flying, man. Wow. Like, really. Wow. Like, as a duo as well, to go through like that. Like, it was just, to beat Claudia and Bea in 2 sets as well. Yeah. Oh, my God,
exactly.
Man.
Like, defeating number 3 seeds is massive.
It's a statement to make,
and it was really... I actually really enjoyed watching them a bit more sort of... attentively trying to figure out their tactics.
Yeah, what makes them? What do you think in terms of you can't put it in a nutshell? But what were the moments for you during their game, especially against Claudia and Bea?
Yeah, I think what happened in those quarterfinals, I don't think it was that Bea and Claudia played a necessarily bad game. I think it was just that Ustero and Alonso played an incredible game. I don't think Fernandez and Gonzalez were finding any weapons to hurt them.
Right.
Literally. I think the biggest battle was in between on the diagonal between Bea and Ale.
Yeah.
And Ale was just getting every single ball back. All of Bea's overheads were not hurting her. Which really cool to observe, and I don't know if you agree with me, Connor, but I kind of wanted to. They kind of remind me of like the female version of Koki and John Sanz.
Right, break that down. This
righty lefty combo of a really consistent backhand, which is technically because of the righty lefty combo. Then, as we know, they can like it doesn't matter who's the offensive or who's the defensive because of the positioning of the hand, they can both be if they wanted to. But having this like more consistent backhand, which isn't the usual thing, like Ale Alonso. I'm not saying she's necessarily defensive, but she's very consistent.
Yes.
And more of a risk taker with Ustero, who I think is one of the few female players who really goes for powerful shots, trying to,
little portraits,
smash it, little kick smash, smashing it behind the line, more of a risk taker. More of like, as you said, like the magician, going for those extra difficult shots combined with the consistency of Ale Alonso. And Ale Alonso just, she also reminded me a bit of like Coelho in the sense that she just wants the net.
Yeah, man.
She doesn't like playing, even though she's really good off the glass.
Yeah, you'll see her push.
She
in so many scenarios.
Sometimes she just was lobbed Bea and she just pushed immediately, and that's her strong. That's when she's the strongest.
Yeah,
I think it's when she's on that pit pat or
exactly.
blocking.
When all four of them up at the net as well, and it's that confidence that you can just break that ball through to the other side and you can get it through, man. And I think Ustero gets a lot of hype maybe because she's a younger person and she deserves it all. But as a pairing together, I think that really is like at such a young age. They're ones to watch out for, man, and you can see them. They're testing some of the top already, literally. You know what I mean?
And they're ranking up those points.
Yeah,
they are because they made it to the final. Fair enough. They lost against they made it to the semis. Fair enough. They lost against Jose Maria. And Sanchez, which is fair enough because it's like
it's them,
years of experience over them.
Exactly.
Plus the quality they have is insane.
It is incredible seeing them and how they handle like a duo like Bea and Claudia then they go up against Ari and is her name Paulita or Paulita? Paula? Why am I adding?
Well, because people in the paddle world they give them like
little
nickname.
extra. Now we're all up to date. We know what's up. There we go. Like it is almost like they're stepping into like the final boss. You know what I mean? And it's like they really do get tested and pushed in every way possible. And I really want them to meet and play more and more sort of semis or finals or whatever or quarters even, and try crack that code a little bit and try figure them out. And, it's incredible. But
really, really happy with, and like happy and like impressed and also proud of Ustero and Alonso, who are, I think they're just going to keep growing.
Growing. They're going to push. Yeah, they're going to push. I mean, look, there's another pairing that we need to talk about as well because they made it to the finals too.
Dude, what about the final? Yes, please tell us.
Delphi Brea, Ari Sanchez, Paula Jose Maria. Like, oh my God, man! Like,
it was a weird final, no?
It was weird. It was weird because this was a pairing or this was a final or a matchup that I've been wanting to see since they announced their switch up, basically. And I really thought that these guys were gonna be the ones to actually put the pressure on Sanchez and Jose Maria. And it's right, man. They kind of figured them out there. And I really give props to Gemma Triai during the final because she was an absolute monster. But you are right. If you look at the score, the first set went, 6-0 to Sanchez, Jose Maria.
6-0 to Sanchez, Jose Maria.
Then Gemma Triai brought it back to 6-2, 6-1.
It's 6-1, which is so weird.
Yeah, to see a game flip-flop like that, in my opinion, what was happening is that they're testing each other out, and I really felt like they each took a set each. Yeah. And really, they got to dance in the last one. Yeah. Because that really felt like an absolute sort of like matchup. Really, in the last set, they had to let it all out. They all had one each going into it. And for me, Gemma Triai, I mean, I give props to Delphi as well because she was also carrying a little bit. But I think Gemma's aggressiveness, but her reliability is actually insane. To see her watch and play, and she's such a strong figure.
She's incredible.
And it's kind of like what we were expecting when she parted ways from Claudia Fernandez, because all props to Claudia as well. She can carry herself, no problem. But I think really that decision where Gemma was like, okay, I'm going to go partner with Delphi Brea because this is the opportunity, and in the time that she has left in her career, which I won't put a number on, that she's going to push for number one. And seeing
That's
them...
what I was going to ask. Being number 2 seeds right now,
do
you see them battling for that number 1 spot?
100%.
2025?
Yeah, 100%. The points difference is a little bit crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't technically work like that because it's based on each tournament, right? Yeah. I want to see them push for it because, we always say it about Koya and Tapia, and they're miles ahead. That margin between in the women's tournaments is a little bit smaller, but I think it's time for someone to put that pressure on where we get that excitement in our stomachs when they go into the finals, and I think this is a bit of a shift now for Sanchez and Jose Maria, where they went, all right, we got to step up our game a bit. Let's go back. Let's watch the game again, understand where we lost and where we picked that up. I think if we pull up the stats as well,
I mean, it's not really, to be honest, both for the men's final and the women's final.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't think the stats are that informative because we're looking at super sort of tied stats here. We're looking at 30 winners from Sanchez and Jose Maria to 31 winners from Tria and Fernandez, 31 unforced errors for Sanchez Jose Maria to 29 for the others. Everyone's got sort of like similar scores in terms of winners, unforced errors. It was just tied. Again, at the end of the day, kind of same with the men's. I think the men's was a bit different, but for the women's, I think it just came down to like break points and breaking at the
I think maybe
perfect moment.
Maybe because of the way the first two sets played out a little bit in terms of like trying to get the stats to reflect the energy of the game as well might not feel like it was like that, but to walk away in the third set 6-4, that's pretty sweet for them. So you know what, it's the start of a beautiful rivalry, hopefully, and we can see them press, and there's going to be other pressures from other names like Ustero and Alonso, and let's not forget about Bea Gonzalez and Claudia Fernandez. Unfortunately they won't be playing in Cancun in the next tournament. I'm not too sure why. Maybe they're preserving themselves for Miami, but yeah, it's an exciting time for women's paddle, I think.
Yeah, it's what I was gonna say. Even though we're getting a weird moment hiatus in the men's, it's beautiful to see that the women's is bringing so much excitement and competitiveness to the sport. It's
incredible,
really,
man.
It's really great.
We get to actually watch them play in like the top 100 men. Yeah. But
before we move on to our second topic. Yeah, I just wanted to like get your thoughts, talk to you about like the men's final a little bit. I know we've commented on it a little bit, but like what were your thoughts? What did you think? Because again, the stats aren't really, they don't.
Yeah, they're not representative, right? We'll flash them up now.
And it wasn't a walk in the park for the Cabeza and Garcia either. I just think it's watching the game really gave you
I thought the game was almost a bit of a comedy, really.
Really?
Yeah, because I think I would have been a little bit more confident that Tolio and Gonza would have been able to handle their situation a little bit more. And really, in reality, I felt like they crumbled.
I think they made especially. I think it was can't remember which set it was. I think it was maybe the third set or second set they took. But there was a moment where they were just throwing away points.
I mean, no, it was the first set that they threw it, man. It was like 5-3 to Tolio and Gonza, man. And
no, other way around. It was 5-3 to Cabeza and Garcia. Tolio and Gonza got to 5-5, and then Cabeza and Garcia took it for...
and they still stole it like that,
Yeah, but at one point, there was just like the amount of unforced errors from Tolio and Gonza. I was like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, it just felt like they were their oxygen level was
exactly. I was gonna say, not that you can pin it down to 100%, but really you're gonna start making more unforced errors when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And it was so clear that they were exhausted. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, I'm like picking on them. They're literally our age. I think Tolio is like 26, 27 years old. But to go up against 17-year-olds, man, like
but they're beasts, though. I guess it's a battle of, is it, what's the balance in between experience and just pure quality and talent? You know what I mean? Because technically, at a big event final, you would expect, which is, we've already talked about it, what was super surprising about Cabeza and Garcia, their maturity. You would expect 17 and 18-year-olds who've never been in that position in their life to maybe crumble a little bit or not be able to handle their nerves, not having a coach there to like sort of talk them out of it.
The mentality and
which didn't happen.
So
maybe you would think, which maybe you kind of saw that a little bit in the first set with them not being able to secure that 6-3 and having to go to 7-5. But
I do think the mental pressure and the mental game was really on Tolito and Gonza there. It wasn't on the 17-year-olds because look, Cabeza
They had nothing to lose.
went into it being the youngest player to get to a Premier Padel final.
Yeah.
In some way, he won already. You know
I guess
what
they
mean?
were just before going out. They were just like, "Look, dude, we're gonna give it all we got.
Yeah.
It's not that we're like expecting to lose. I don't think they were at all.
Exactly.
It's like we're just gonna have fun. This is a massive opportunity for
Yeah.
us. Let's just go out there and do what we do best." And it worked out.
No, it was, and
It
it's a career highlight
Yeah.
for them already, man.
Yeah.
And they're so young, and you know what?
like-
That's why, like they did have the least amount of pressure. Seeing at the end of the game, seeing Tolito and Gonza sit on the chairs, like what the fuck just happened? And it's like that. They're because they're obviously not guys that. Maybe Hugh wants to talk about their sportsmanship a little bit, but it's not like they were. They put the emotions behind their face. You could tell, obviously, that it's an emotional sport, right? But they were absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
But they know they should have won that. I really believe they should have won that.
Yeah. It just goes to show again how like trick shots and magic only take you so far. Even having more experience and more like years of paddle on top of you over these super young guys, how
Exactly.
them just being pure quality of actual how paddle is supposed to be played.
Yeah.
Just goes to show how that will always win over that,
True.
So-
And I think this kind of, not to dog on Tolito and Gonza anymore, but really, this is the second tournament of the season, guys,
Yeah.
and this is their entry into Premier Padel.
Yeah.
They aren't young players. Well, they're on the slightly older side, right?
Mhm.
And to the excitement for them to come into this tournament knowing that, okay, it's kind of a clear opening here to get to the finals, and they did get there.
Make a stance at P2 and
What
at
does the
Gijón, and
What
it
does the
was-
rest of the season look like when the top
Yeah.
100 are there? You know what I mean? Like I think we mentioned
I
that
guess
already.
also like you can never be too sure. Again, it is, as you said, beginning of the season, early days.
Yeah, it is
Early days in both senses, like
Yeah.
early days, it would have been a great opportunity for you guys to make a mark,
Yeah.
especially going into it with a bit of backlash from media and fans being like, should you guys really be in this tournament?
And they should, because it doesn't
taking
matter.
into account the boycott and everything.
Because they didn't even win it.
But at the same time, early days, you
Yeah.
know, they've never played in Premier Padel before, so it's we'll see.
Obviously they have that reputation of dominating the A1 paddle circuit, and I also just think that displays the difference of level, right, between Premier Padel and A1.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how the fucking cookie crumbles,
Yeah.
and hats off to the young guys,
Mhm.
and unfortunately with Tolito and Gonza,
Back to the drawing board.
back to the drawing board. You
Yeah.
guys gotta get back on the treadmill or something like that, and get the
Yeah.
fitness up. But I'm actually being real, man. Like
Yeah.
he got killed out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially after playing that many games over a tournament. It's
But
literally what
that's
stopped
the
him.
nature of
Yeah.
Premier Padel. Like, welcome.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like
You
this
got to
is what
step your
it's-
game
This is
up.
what it's going to be like.
You just got beat by a 17 and an 18-year-old that are way further down the ranks.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a reality check for them, right?
Mhm.
I'm interested to see if they're like,
Yeah.
dude, let's go back to A1, man. Like,
Yeah.
let's get out of here.
Cabeza
because-
and Garcia weren't even top 4 seeds in the
No,
tournament.
no,
I don't know
no.
exactly which seeds they went into
Yeah,
the tournament, but yeah.
literally,
crazy.
man.
But yeah.
No, so yeah, it was a fruitful tournament, man.
Mhm.
A lot of new experiences,
Yeah.
but honestly,
Let's get into like the next thing.
yeah, which we'll get into our next subject, which is still the boycott. We're still back in the world of a boycott. I feel like we're children of divorce and our parents are arguing a little
Yeah,
bit,
dude.
and we're kind of like left on the side. And
Crazy times.
it's still kicking around. Obviously, it's not going to come to any conclusion yet. So we kind of wanted to keep you up to date with a little bit of
We have updates.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Run
yeah.
us through it. What's been going on?
What's been going on? I think since the last time we spoke about this, there's been 2 articles of information that have come out,
Okay.
or from kind of both parties, if you think about it.
Mhm.
So obviously we covered the PPA's response, right, which was very
Or the reasons for the boycott, right?
right, which we covered in our last episode. And if you haven't, I'm sure you guys are. If you're this far into the episode, you've been caught up already on that. But oh my God, Premier Padel, the FIP, the Qatari Sports Investment Group, they went in
responded.
pretty hard, man. Kind of staring down in the eyes of the bull. I'd be a little bit terrified being on the side of the players, right? But I think they made, some pretty interesting and strongly worded remarks.
Wow.
Which is a nice way to say it, right?
The tone.
I think what is the we're gonna be referencing our notes here a little bit because everything is just kind of everywhere. We're like we're chat GPTing translations into English, man, from like weird PDFs that we find online. But I think what the main headline is here is that where is this lovely quote that
so basically, well, first of all, the tone of the response, if you've read the entire letter, the wording is insane. Premier Padel and the FIP are not happy at all. What you'd expect, obviously, because it's a boycott, but the way they've worded and phrased things was...
It was mad, bro. It's like they shut down every leverage or, every claim that...
They've shut it down completely.
That the PPA made, right?
Yeah, and but like the sort of the main, I guess, thing is, as you were just mentioning now, sort of like the basically the top takeaways from this response from Premier Padel and the FIP was basically they've threatened legal action against the players and against the PPA, calling the boycott illegal, and one of the darkest and most self-destructive moments in padel history, which, as we said, just this phrase is a crazy wording.
That echoes the stance that these guys are going to take, and it really feels like if they don't find any middle ground, which I think Premier Padel, FIP, all of the above have kind of made, and I think that's their way of being nice, is that they're saying, hey, we can talk, but everything that you've mentioned so far that gives you your sort of leverage over here in terms of the doing a silent boycott, or the players aren't really fully taking on that they're boycotting, and they're trying to find their loopholes where they do have the most leverage here. It really felt like they just sort of took everything away, and I would be terrified to go up against the lawyers, right? I think they have one of like the strongest law firms representing them.
Cuatro Casas, which is one of the biggest and most like powerful law firms in the country in Spain, basically. And just the last sentence of the letter they wrote was just brutal. They were like, we encourage any player who wants to keep going on with this boycott to probably seek legal action, because you're going to soon receive a nice little letter from our lawyers, from our well-respected lawyers from Cuatro Casas. So just just so you guys know, we're coming for you, and we're not happy at all. But just to go into like we've kind of touched upon it, but like the main stance of Premier Padel and the FIP was, apart from, shutting down all their arguments, they felt really hurt and offended at the fact that players and the PPA would go against the organization that is trying to grow and nurture the sport. Like, they kept talking about the millions of investment they've done, everything they're trying to do to grow the sport, and how this boycott is basically as nonsensical, because all you guys are doing is all the efforts that we're collectively trying to do, you're basically making them useless. You're shooting yourselves in the foot, no?
Yeah, they are shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, or that from the perspective of Premier Padel, they're implying that, right? And it's kind of true, right? Like the funding that these guys get is all through from them, and the rapid growth of it, and how they've been supported ever since the QSI has been involved. We're here with the Padel podcast. The amount of viewership that's gone up, the popularity, it didn't come from nowhere, right? So it is kind of like, you can imagine they're feeling a little bit of like disrespect, right? Where do we draw the line in terms of what's actually fair, what's reasonable? It's a little bit hard, because we're literally like picking little...
We're missing a lot of information. We don't know the ins and outs.
And really, okay, so basically that's kind of like the nutshell highlight, that Premier Padel's now responded with a bit of a backhand to the PPA. And it's very hard to put a lot of context or pieces of the puzzle. And I think, a nice perspective, or something, I laughed when I initially saw it, but at the same time I wasn't surprised. But when the player list for the next tournament in Cancun came out for another P2 tournament, which, by the way, for those who aren't looped in, it seems like this drama or whatever is coming around the P2 speculations, right? Because a lot of the players are convinced that they it's not compulsory to play in them, and Premier Padel's coming back and saying it is. So there is confusion within this, and we'll get there. But who are the names that are playing in the next tournament?
LeBron and Stupa.
Exactly.
They are the only ones from the top 100 ranked players who've signed up for Cancun so far. I think, are the registrations done?
Yeah, I think registration's closed, dude. And this is like the absolute like villain origin story. If you want to, make a Marvel universe or a Premier Padel universe comparison, right? And of course, it had to be them, right? It had to be them.
As if LeBron didn't need any more bad rep, bad publicity.
You said it, man. Their publicist or whoever manages their PR must be just like losing their mind a little bit because It was shocking. I'll flash it up here, but there's an incredible graphic of the seeded pairs for Cancun and where Stupa and LeBron lie, and it's incredible how much of an advantage that they have.
However, we did get a statement from Stupa on his social media, sort of explaining the reasons behind their registration in the event.
I mean, you said it nicely. You said he's explaining he didn't really say anything. It felt like a legal response, man, drafted up by his lawyers, but really he said a lot of words. But at the end of the day, if you want to pick apart really where Stupa was coming from, he didn't say it. And he was essentially saying that he's like, I respect the players, but I also respect
I think he was just looking out for himself, because basically what he said in the statement was, I've been after the Premier Padel's response, which, as I just said, their last sort of threatening sentence before they finished the letter. I think basically Stupa was like, okay, well, I heard you because I've read it, and so I will seek legal counseling and see what's up. And he did, and apparently because he quoted what his lawyers had said to him, basically saying, like, we strongly encourage you to stop boycotting due to legal and financial consequences that might come of this.
Yeah.
They're talking about, like, maybe not, like, you might lose sponsors.
Yeah.
You might get, legally sought out by Premier Padel or the FIP kind of thing. So
I think really where the motivations came behind, banding together, call it a silent boycott. But it's, a lot of morals are involved here with a lot of the decisions, right? And once you bring lawyers, and no hate to lawyers, but they don't care about morals at the end of the day. They care about staying safe and making sure that your bank account doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
That's literally it, man. And this is the problem, man, because Stupa and LeBron, that's a new nickname for them, Lupa. They have responsibility here. Yeah. They're in the top 10 players in the world. LeBron, no hate to Stupa, being I'll be honest, one of the faces of padel.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest fan bases of padel. And that gives them that extra level of responsibility when it comes to this, because really at the end of the day, it's power in numbers when it comes to this. And gosh, man, my feelings are a little bit changed towards them, because it felt like they buckled. Yeah. Who wouldn't be scared to get some of these threatening letters that Premier Padel's putting out? But really, it's there's
strength in numbers, right? Like if they go for all of us, like at least we're united in this, and we're in this together.
Exactly. And now I think the next P2 tournament is in Brussels, right? Which takes us to the end of April. But it's honestly now I think this is going to change the landscape and the motivations and the power that these guys had.
Feels like the strength of the chain has sort of lost one of its pieces, right? One of its main pieces.
Exactly.
And,
so really, if you look at from a moral point of view, you kind of lose a little bit of faith now, because I literally won't be surprised if other it doesn't matter if they're in the top 10, but if other sort of top 30 players are like, what, I'm gonna go, and it'll be one by one, and it's honestly, it's just the last straw, you know what I mean, that sort of creates that motivation. And look, in that statement that Stupa made, he's saying that it's not about gaining any extra points here or picking it up, but it's like a win-win for them, man, because they don't have to participate in the boycott. They don't have to suffer any sort of like legal pressures come from Premier Padel. And at the end of the day, of course, they're going to win this tournament. Of course.
And that's the thing. The only thing that comes out of this is the ethical and moral reasons. Obviously, for them, it's win-win, but it's like, is all these winnings, are they worth it? If you're trying to, or initially you were trying to bet on the future of this sport and betting on your fellow colleagues and other players,
Like, I know Stupa put at the bottom of his statement as well that, like, saying if them taking part in this tournament means that, they won't take part in it again on like the next season,
or that they don't participate in some of the tournaments, so that and another P2 so that other players can play.
It's just like, bro, come on, man. So it's very interesting seeing Stupa make the response. I don't think LeBron's gonna say anything, and I think LeBron's just gonna let Stupa speak for him because as much as LeBron's followed, he also has a fair amount of haters, which is fair enough, right? And like, I think Stupa really had to put that statement out because at the end of the day they have to deal with the heat, and they got so much of it because rightfully so, man. Like, you guys folded on the second boycott, man. Like,
I think there is like a silver lining within this Stupa's statement, is that regardless of what he said, and I mean, we hope this is true, but he did speak on the fact that, which is fair enough, which is, I think, is what everyone wants, but he did express his hopes that this whole issue will be solved through dialogue and communication, which is fair enough. And he did say, that there's some improvements being done in terms of I think today, this afternoon. So we still don't know, but this afternoon they're having a meeting. Right. I think the PPA and Premier Padel and the FIP sitting down, trying to see what they can do, which is what everyone wants at the end of the day. Which brings me to my next point, and then I've just got another couple ideas that I want to talk about. But and what Stupa said as well, it's like, and he put it in caps. He's like, we've got a young sport here. We've got so much potential with this sport, which we're already seeing. We're already seeing how it's growing, the fan base that it's creating, and it's such a shame to throw all that away. I'm not talking about, what the ins and outs are, who's in the right, who's in the wrong, what's legal, what's illegal. I'm just talking about big picture. Don't mess it up. Either the FIP or the PPA or the players, whoever, everyone involved, or all the parties that are involved in this. Yes, please do find a way of solving it peacefully and through dialogue, so that brands and sponsors and the fan base can come back to paddle, and you can continue to grow this sport that's got so much potential. Don't mess it up.
It does, but it honestly, in these responses, especially Premier Padel's response, like, it does feel like they're literally like with a knife, like, come on, sit down with us, man. Like, it's like they don't wanna mess around. And we always mention the people funding this, which is the Qatari Sports Investment Group. Let's not forget that they also own PSG, and they threatened to pull the whole funding for PSG. Like, if you compare, the amount of money that runs through football compared to paddle, man, this is nothing to them. Really, we've got to be brutally honest. Like, the amount of money flowing through this and the amount of money that they're seeing in terms of profit, or they're in the green, is nowhere near enough, man. And to have this much, what's a nice word, ruckus or controversy already surrounded this, it's just going to give them a headache. And there's going to be a point where they're just like, let's pull the plug, guys. Let them find another league. Let's kill dangerous. The rest of the player base. You don't want it to get sour, but it's already like, these are damaging moments that
dangerous territory.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really, really hope that it doesn't get to that.
So it really is a scary time for paddle a little bit, man. I'll be honest. Like, we try to look positively and enjoy the experiences of watching a lot of the young players get an opportunity to win. And look how we saw Cabeza and Garcia, secure a win like that. That's amazing. But I'll be honest as well, man. I love watching, the top players perform at the best. I want to watch the best. I want to watch the premier level of paddle, right? And we're not getting that at the moment. I know P1s are coming. I know majors are coming as well. But god damn, man. Like, it is
it's crazy. I also just wanted to sort of, before we finish, kind of touch up on the fact that Premier Padel and the FIP, on their statement, they keep calling this boycott illegal. This illegal boycott, boycott that, but we're not getting the specific the legality of this whole situation. So we can't say for certain, because we don't know. But what I'm thinking is, which is I think what the Stupa's lawyers are talking about, is we're talking about
Is this the
contractual issues.
Oh my god, this is
like,
so stupid.
Which I think is like, yeah, but I think it's important that we speak about it, because it's
of
like,
course.
apparently the players signed, like back in the day, a few years back, they signed a contract, 25-year long contract with
the worst type of contract to sign
with Premier Padel, you know, and
oh my god.
in this contract is stipulated, well, obviously all their obligations as players and etc. whatever. So as you said a while back, like maybe like not even the players, it's in English, not even the players exactly know what their obligations are if all the P2s are that have to be played, or if they don't, you know, because maybe it's just a few. Like there's some info here that we're missing that maybe, you know, maybe Premier Padel has got a point from like a legal standpoint.
This is like a big no for me as well. This is why I really feel like Stupa's response was also just like a legal jargon. It's a nothing burger to me. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really said. He slipped in a few little one-liners there, which give us a little bit of perspective.
Yeah.
But look, if you're in Stupa's position and you're bringing in lawyers to review your legal position and what leverage that you have, and literally to come together, get paid lawyers to look at the contracts that you're involved in, to then make a statement on your public statement on Instagram, literally saying that you're even yourself confused about your contractual rights in your
that's as a professional contract. That is crazy. That if that's the case, again, we don't know for certain. If the case is that players do have contractual obligations that they're not aware of, that's crazy.
It's not okay, man. Not okay. It's not okay for your lawyers to review it and let you make a statement that.
And you as a professional not knowing what those obligations are. You know, hopefully that's not the case. Again, we don't know for certain, but
it is interesting. I just on the topic of things that are also interesting that came out of this. You know, we haven't really, you know, oh my gosh, you know, when it's this controversial, no one's going to speak out of free will.
Yeah.
However, Stupa's post, I did think it was interesting. We did see, you know, not really a statement made by one of the top female paddle players on this topic. I did think it was pretty interesting that Gemma Triai, you know, replied with a all caps vamos, like, you know, supporting
sort of power to the
exactly. So, you know,
individual.
Considering that the top 100 females, or, you know, however many top female players, you know, decided to ignore the boycott, it is pretty interesting to see Gemma Triai's stance on this as well, where clearly I think she's supportive of this movement as well, with Stupa, you know, continuing to play in P2. You know, so I thought I'd add that in there because like
it's interesting.
You know, that's what we're literally like picking up the little pieces right now and trying to make some sense of this and what are the general consensus, what is the general consensus towards this with the majority of the player base.
And it's I think it brings us nicely to sort of like a closing point. Like I'm wondering, we haven't seen any declarations yet by anyone else, I don't think, but like, what are other players thinking about, you know, all of a sudden Stupa and LeBron going back from the boycott? Like, how is that going to affect the relationship within the players? Like, you know, what a short term, what's the future of this whole conflict? As I said, my hopes, and I can't say I think it will. I have no idea what will happen, but my hopes is that this will be solved in a peaceful way through dialogue.
I think
the best
so.
case scenario.
I think
that's the best case scenario, but you know, it's tense now.
It's very tense. It's very tense, and you know, I you know, I'm so conflicted because I do enjoy the drama, but not like this. This just feels messy. Like, we want to talk about the games a little bit,
and it's affecting the fan base as well. I'm not saying it's because the players don't want to play, because they're in their right to you know, to protest in whatever way they want. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. I'm just saying the entire situation is, you know, it's affecting the fan base you and I are part of it. You know, what literally. We want is to watch paddle.
We should shout out the people actually attending Gijón though.
Yeah, because, hats off as well, and supporting other players.
They sat there with smiles on their faces. They you know, were celebrating. It was amazing seeing like literal like kids wanting signatures from some of the players and seeing like where the fandom starts, right? And for there being like a lack of like some of the top players at this tournament, yet they still went and had a good time. You know, I think that's great because this feels like a one-off right now. But if this continues, it's really unfair for the for the fan base. And
Yeah.
it's hard to predict where this is going, but it does feel like dark times. There's some scary moments that are being pulled out, and it's hard to predict where this is going to go. We think we'd all like to be adults and sit down and talk it out and find some middle ground. I have no idea how strong-worded or how firm of a stance Premier Padel, FIP, QSI, all these abbreviations that are kind of like form that body of people against the players, really. And I it's hard to say right now because we're getting drip-fed information like this, and we're trying to understand it because you watch the stream, guys. You watch the Premier Padel stream. It's like they don't want to mention anything. Of course, why would they, right? Because it's not a
giving
good look.
power to them as well. They didn't mention it at all. They were acting as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And they, because as they said in their letter as well, they were like, players are not realizing, this is what they said, that this is only affecting them. Like this is all you guys are doing is jeopardizing the sport. And all these, like, they also talked about like all the Olympic efforts, how initially the PPA's letter was like, you're not pushing the sport into the Olympics enough. And then Premier Padel comes back saying like, we're having weekly meetings, which we don't know if it's true or not. That's what they said. We're having weekly meetings trying to push the sport into the Olympics and making it bigger and whatever. It's just like two completely different sides of the story, basically, and how they were accusing the PPA of like telling the players, just so you guys know, the PPA is misleading you and they're like using you in a weird
ultimate gaslighters. Oh my god, it's a toxic time in paddle, guys. Honestly, like it really is, and like I don't know, it kind of
But this is off court, and we're bringing you the juice. We're bringing you the news, trying to keep you updated. We're doing our best as well to like it's. Not gonna lie, guys. This is also it takes a lot of effort and a lot of research and work to find all these sources of information, translating them, getting into like. We
appreciate you for those correcting us on some of our little minor errors as well, because it's hard for us to be bulletproof tied. So you guys in the comments as well. Now we appreciate you guys looking out for us and making sure that we're hitting all the right spots properly. Right.
But I do understand as well that it is difficult to.
It's so hard to. I feel like I'm a lawyer
to try and find all these things.
Man.
To try, there's so much information that we can literally have no access to. So this is as close as we can get ourselves and you guys to the drama and what's exactly happening.
I just want to see Koyo just hit a from the back line.
Let's just go back to the good old days, man.
Dude, yeah, it felt good for a second. We're only on episode 8. And we're dealing with a boycott, man. What is this?
Let's get back to the kick smashes, to dunks.
Yes, please.
To
It's getting frustrated. I don't want to have to like ChatGPT a Spanish document to English, you know what I mean, and try and understand it. I just want to see the games. But hey, this is part of it. This is Off Court Podcast.
It is what it is.
I think this kind of wraps up the episode, right? So, thank you very much for tuning in to the 8th episode. Guys, we're sticking at it. We're trying our best, and, we're enjoying.
And I think also last episode did so well.
Yes,
Our little clip as well did really well. Instagram also growing a lot.
Oh my god, yeah! Thank you for the 55K views on our Galan prediction. Who knew making a prediction at the beginning of the season?
We'll see. It is a prediction. Maybe it doesn't happen. Probably won't. But we'll see.
For those who are watching on YouTube, if you don't follow us on our Instagram, or even if you're a little bit younger and on TikTok, find us on there because we do post on there as well. So,
big thank you. Thank you to all of you guys and all the. Cool and amazing support you're giving us on the comments. We read every single one. So yeah, thanks for that.
Exactly. The classic YouTuber outro. Hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
If you can't watch us, find us on Spotify and put us in the background so you can hear our annoying voices.
Yeah.
But as always, thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the next one.
Lovely.
Cheers, guys.